Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Jewel here once again, and once again I am back for the likes of not only from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos, but also for the likes of the Mega Man Marathon 2. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Mega Man The Wily Wars for the Sega Mega Drive / Sega Genesis. So last time we basically managed to complete it, Mega Man 2, on this entire compilation, thanks to the forms of we managed to deal with the forms of Dr. Wily once again, but it turns out that we actually did manage to defeat the alien for some reason. But as a result though, it's an incredible journey, despite how difficult that is at first. But every once in a while though, we did manage to complete it regardless of everything else. So today, for this video, is the fact that we are moving on to the third game in terms of this entire compilation. And that's what appears to be by the forms of Mega Man 3. Now before we get into that though, is the fact that I just want to classify for something right off the bat. That unfortunately though, that I probably will discuss more details about the forms of this unfortunate event until tomorrow. Because obviously though, that today is the 28th of August. So this meaning about the fact that we're actually getting pretty close towards the end of the month. So either way though, we'll hopefully able to mention more about it. And during, like I said, during tomorrow. So anyways, let's begin. Mega Man 3, originally released in 1990 for the NES. So in this case though, we're able to actually get this thing to it. So of course, we're about to get started with Snake Man first, because obviously that's the first ever Robot Master we're going to be taking on first, from the likes of Mega Man 3. So of course, they plays out very much like in Mega Man 2, except now you do have the ability to use the slide. So because of that though, in certain situations of the entire game, that some scenarios that you always have to able to do some sliding maneuvers for certain sections. So that's the only thing that's usually been added for this point. But also we're able to actually introduce into ourselves Rush, which is the actual canine companion for Mega Man. So because of that though, at the moment right now, we can only be able to actually use Rush Coil at the moment, which allows you to able to activate something like a spring function for Rush Coil, so that way you can able to reach certain areas that you can't able to actually reach with a singular jump. So that'll be useful though, especially noticeable if you're trying to find, you know, certain items and all that stuff. So I guess that makes it totally obvious for the sake of time. And eventually though, that you might able to come across into those E-tanks or energy tanks, where you can able to actually carry 9 of them as opposed to 4 from the likes of Mega Man 2. So yeah, you probably already know what this is after the events of 2018 for the original NES counterparts of between both Mega Man 2 and Mega Man 3. So there's not much anything else to be more than said and done. So of course, much like in Mega Man 2, I believe, that I'm pretty sure we don't need to utilize the password feature on this version, on the Mega Drive version, because thanks to the forms of the actual the saving system, so thankfully you can able to actually continue where you left off, as opposed to able to try to figure out which specific password in order to able to continue where you left off if you're trying to able to proceed. So I guess that's like a huge massive upgrade for the sake of the forms of trying to able to progress for the entire portion of the game, because, well, who needs passwords? Because that would be kind of archaic. If we managed able to get passwords in the future games, well, it might not likely going to be happening. So anyway, without further ado, let's just go ahead and continue things on and try to take on one of those boss fights every once in a while, or mini bosses as far as this is concerning with, such as those snake heads, which you have to deal with these things twice before you're able to progress. So yeah, I guess that makes it totally obvious sense. So because I was expecting that they were able to actually contain even more Mega Man games of this entire Mega Man The Wily Wars kind of you know, compilation games. Like I was expecting they were able to remake you know, 4, 5, and 6 by the forms of Mega Man The Wily Wars 2. But unfortunately though, is the fact that the sequel to Mega Man The Wily Wars never happened because of the forms of poor sales for, let's just say, in the European version of the game, just because of the forms of the actual lag. Especially noticeable, you have to cope with this very terrible 50 Hz mode, because it runs a lot slower, which I have no idea why I say things a little bit of a weird Gerberish about it, because, I mean, let's face it, it has been a quite a while since I actually done some recording sessions on this. Although, mind you though, after the events of yesterday, that we already did manage to finish up with Mega Man 2 portion of this entire compilation so far. So, yeah, I guess that's pretty much about it. So, anyways, let's take on Snake Man first. So, of course, much like the forms of the original NES version, I'm gonna have to, like, sacrifice myself, so I need to able to do this entire battle with my full health, because otherwise it will be impossible if able to do with little amounts of health, just like in any other Robot Masters every once in a while. So yeah, you probably get the idea about that solution. So yeah, I'm very surprised about the fact that, well, relatively speaking, like I said, that we've almost nearly at the end of August month already, before we move on to the 9th month of 2022, which should be September. So because of that though, expecting to be hype on certain scenarios like this, and especially noticeable about the fact that until next month, that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 will be releasing next month, despite the fact that I wasn't really too thrilled with the series as of now, mainly because I just somehow give up on the series, mainly because I'm not a big fan of the forms of a JRPG kind of combat system, because unlike you know, Mario Luigi RPG games and Paper Mario, and especially noticeable in Super Mario RPG, and especially noticeable with Kingdom Hearts as well, that at the very least with those games you can do something to able to try to avoid enemy encounters, or specifically just trying to maneuver around yourself, especially noticeable in Kingdom Hearts case, that's basically you can able to avoid a lot of those enemy attacks. So at the very least you got that. So, oh jeez, that particular getting the actual weapon get animation on the Mega Drive version feels a bit slightly slower in comparison to the original NES counterpart, but that's okay I suppose, because obviously we've already dealt out with the forms of Snake Man, so in this case we've now got ourselves our Search Snake. So because of that though, yeah, everything's all comes together, and of course like in the original version of Mega Man 3, that there might be other Rush parts here and there, specifically Rush Jet and Rush Marine, but it does need to be able to complete on certain stages, to be more specifically both let's just say Needle Man, and especially noticeable with I would say Shadow Man as well. So because even though despite the fact that it has been a very long while since I actually did manage to last play Mega Man 3, because even though the last time I played Mega Man 3 is by the forms of Mega Man Legacy Collection between the 3DS version and the Switch version, just because, well, just feel like playing those games on the go, even though it's kind of a shame that until tomorrow anyway, that you can no longer try to get, although you can still able to get Mega Man Legacy Collection on the Switch every once in a while, but as far as 3DS owners, that, well, it's pretty obvious that Mega Man Legacy Collection on the 3DS will no longer going to be available to purchase, because, well, again, I'll talk more about that until tomorrow for this very unfortunate event for the sake of the forms of that particular time for tomorrow. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, because obviously we've heard that recognizable whistle, which it turns out, oh, is that familiar strange robot, which at first glance they managed to obviously did originally call him Breakman, but until eventually they were able to call him a different name. So, but let's not get ahead of ourselves, because obviously we need to use the Rush Coil to not only get ourselves our glorious extra life back, but also gain some more health back, but after, you know, taking multiple hits on certain enemy encounters, or especially certain hazards every once in a while. So yeah, you get the idea about that. So, and also for the Gemini Man stage is the fact that this particular stage is going to be super generous with you, especially noticeable if you're trying to take down those topaz or, you know, some tadpoles like enemies like these, that they sometimes manage to able to give you like health pickups, while some other times it actually gives you some extra lives, which this stage is super generous when it comes to extra lives sometimes, assuming if you're lucky. But either way though, I do apologize if my you know, my beak can sometimes feel a little bit stuttery when it comes to speaking, but I'm still fine as it is though, so do not panic. So anyway, so let's go ahead and just keep on just trying to take down those tadpole like enemies while doing so, while trying to able to keep on shooting at those eggs, so just in case we can able to actually access to certain items here and there. Although I'm probably not going to waste my time for doing these kinds of stuff until likely in the next few videos up ahead, because as far as I'm aware, because obviously I need to able to take care of other things here and there, it seems weird that how the fact that Rush somehow becomes blue for some reason every time whenever you manage to able to activate either Rush Coil, Rush Jet, or Rush Marine, depending on what certain scenarios you go for. Well, I have no idea why they managed to able to actually decide able to change his color in the menu selection to blue. Well, usually, for the sake of time, when it comes to like the, unlike the NES version, that sometimes he's always going to be red, like the whole way through. Well, for some reason on the Genesis version, or the Mega Drive version, as far as I like to pronounce it, that most of the time it just goes all in blue, which I honestly have no words to say. But anyways, let's go ahead and just keep on killing all kinds of enemies so that we can get some occasional pickups from certain items here and there. Most of the time it's just health pickups, and especially noticeable with the weapon energy regained. So yeah, I guess there's not much else to explain. And I think at this point in time is the fact that I'm pretty sure we're on the halfway point in terms of the entirety of Mega Man the Wily Wars, because as far as I'm aware, like I said, that obviously we're going to be experiencing those games again, but this time on 16-bit. So imagine it to yourself about the fact that since that we've already done 2 playthroughs of Mega Man 1, so I mean, let's face it, until we decide able to do the PSP remake in the future, to be more specifically, let's just say until next year or something like that, well, assuming if YouTube doesn't seem to able to actually just to shut down the service, which I'm hoping not, because obviously YouTube is so popular, so in this case though, it's not going to go away, so that's a good thing, so... But I digress, and as far as I'm aware, whenever we get to the forms of the PSP remake of Mega Man 1, that'll be 3 playthroughs of Mega Man 1 with the forms of this entire YouTube channel's sake. So because of that though, it will be pretty insane if you ask me. Although, mind you, there might be some, well, I don't know what you would call it that, but anywho. So I suppose I should probably able to actually continue for this discussion, and that is the fact that, well, first of all, I suppose that I forgot to mention to tell you about this, is the fact that in one of those Summer Olympic Games, specifically in 1972, well, I've managed able to done some researches all that sudden, that obviously that particular Olympics takes place in the forms of I would say in West Germany and stuff like that. So in this case though, it does manage to take place in Marcham, and yeah, I do apologize for that particular mispronunciation with that specific 1972 Summer Olympics name was, but I do definitely know for the fact that I'm pretty sure that particular Summer Olympics alone, at least specifically since in the 26th of August, that I forgot to tell you about this, that that particular Summer Olympics is now officially, let's just say, 50 years old. Seriously, 50 years old. Jeez, what? No wonder why time flies all of a sudden. And especially noticeable because, well, it seems totally obvious about the fact that the new generations to come and all that stuff. So, I digress. So now let's go ahead and activate the Search Snake, so just in case we can able to take on Gemini Man by able to doing with his weakness, and of course he decides to able to do double team of himself, and basically though you have to attack, I think you have to attack both of them, so that's you essentially gonna have to do with this fight. So pretty easy when you get the hang of it though, but thankfully with the Mega Drive version does have occasional slowdown here and there, but regardless of anything else though, we did manage to kick his butt, no problem. So yeah, that's that, and now let's go ahead and move on to the next Robot Master level, which I'm thinking we must be able to tackle through Needle Man stage next. So I think we'll basically go on the exact same order as the forms of how it does it on the original NES version of Mega Man 3, basically. So yeah, because usually, relatively speaking, like I said, that this game originally came out in 1990 for the likes of Mega Man 3. So because of that though, it's kind of unfortunate during the course of that miserable 2020 year that unfortunately for Mega Man 3 doesn't usually able to have its very good 30th anniversary of the game itself, which is kind of unfortunate because for Mega Man 3, it's a really good game. Well, at least as far as that, some people usually agree with that because of the forms of some new additions they've been added, such as for instance with the forms of the K9 Companion Rush, which appears to be like a robot dog. So yeah, that's pretty super awesome. And especially noticeable with the forms of the new, foe in town where it comes to its introductioning sake, which appears to be Breakman. Although later on its official name called Proto Man, which I'm sure that most people already know about this because obviously we already did tackle for the original NES version of Mega Man 3 back in 2018. So I don't suppose I can able to keep this a little bit of a secrecy this time around. So because you know exactly how this usually turns out to be. So anyway though, so let's continue things on with this particular discussion for the likes of the forms of today. Now it's the forms about the fact that, well, relatively speaking, we still were able to actually decide to discuss upon in terms of the forms of the box office top 10 lists throughout the years. Like, I won't try to mention more details about that specific list until, let's just say until tomorrow, whenever we decided able to discuss upon the 2002 films releases for its top 10 box office performance, and especially noticeable in 2012's case. So for the time being, let's focusing on the films of, well, let's just say 3 years, with the films of the most high-grossing films throughout the past few years, which I did manage to do massive researches on them. So let's take all the way back to the films of likely 50 years ago, which is to be more specifically 1972, like I stated earlier, from the likes of the actual Summer Olympics in West Germany and stuff like that. And what I've noticed on the top 10 best box office gross films from the likes of in North America and stuff like that, as follows. I think the 10th spot goes to Everything You Always Wanted to Know About Sex. I do apologize for that particular offensive word to say this, but it says on the title, so either way though, I do apologize for that. So anyways, that's that. And number 9 goes to Lady Sings the Blues. So yeah, that seems totally obvious. Number 8 goes to The Getaway. And number 7 goes to Deep Throat. Oh jeez, that's a bit weird. And number 6 goes to Cabaret, which I do apologize for that mispronunciation for that film's name, by the way. But I do definitely know that film came out in 1972. So either way though, as you can see, we've already taken down Needle Man by simply using Gemini Laser, which I rarely use that particular ability because although the only time I only use it is by dealing with the forms of the Needle Man himself. So I guess that's totally obvious about the fact that, well, relatively speaking, I just simply want to mention about that. So far so good when it comes to extra lives department. So far we've got 5 lives and also 2 energy tanks. So alright, so we got ourselves the Needle Cannon, and also we've able to actually access to Rush Jet, which still, Rush Jet still rocks, especially noticeable that unlike, Mega Man 4, 5, 6, 7, and especially noticeable with 9 and 10, and especially noticeable with Mega Man 11, you can able to actually go in just in any directions with the forms of Rush Jet, because let me tell you, that Rush Jet in this game, specifically in Mega Man 3's case, is probably the best Rush Jet ever, because you can just simply control anywhere as opposed to automatically go forward if you take a ride with the forms of Rush Jet. So yeah, I guess that's that. And yeah, let's get back into the forms of the top 10 stuff when it comes to best box office performance throughout the years, for about 50 years ago to 40 years ago and 30 years ago respectively. Although, like I said, I'll get into more details about the forms of another decades ago syndrome, specifically 2 decades ago syndrome until, like I said, until tomorrow, and especially noticeable for a decade ago, also during tomorrow as well. So that way it can able to actually decide able to do a massive recap for those films do manage to did well for its box office performance. So at least back in the day, that is. Number 5 goes to Kanara Johnson, so I guess that's all I can say about it. Number 4 goes to Deliverer Rance, which I do apologize for that mispronunciation with that particular mispronunciation of certain films, so I do apologize for that, for I botched anything else. And also number 3 we have is What's Up Doc, and all that stuff. And number 2 goes to the Post-Dawn Adventure, and number 1 box office performance, and is for the likes of 1972, which appears to be by the films of The Godfather. Oh yes, I've heard about the film, but I still haven't seen it. But the only time I do remember with the films of Godfather is the films of this amazing musical pieces. Every time you see that tragic moment here and there. So even then though, I usually do remember that. So, but that's usually about it. Now let's move on to the films of the next topic for the best box office throughout the years, which appears to be takes place in 1982. So yeah, I think I already mentioned about the fact that recently that MB Vectrex, which appears to be by the forms of the only MB game console that have ever existed, that I believe that particular system has just managed able to become 40 years old at this point. So man, time flies. So anyways, let's get into the actual films for the current box office rankings throughout the years. So yeah, for 1982 anyway. Number 10 goes to Annie, which I think it's like a musical kind of performance, or the musical-based film or something like that. I've seen the film so many times, but I haven't watched it since. So from what I've heard, it's actually pretty alright. Although nowhere near as like massively classical as the films of Oliver Twist, mind you. But either way though, that's for my personal taste anyway. But I'm really like able to revisit that film again. So either way though, you probably expected about as much. So anyways, let's take down Top Man. With his weakness is the forms of course, needle cannon. So just in case we can able to get the accurate shot if possible. I still really wish if they'll able to actually have a sound effect when it comes to likely if we're about to be preparing to do a massive spin. And then, because otherwise, if I accidentally got hit by him, then it'll deal me a massive damage for my part. So, just like right there. But thankfully though, he's pretty easy when you get the hang of it though. So, especially noticeable if you're trying to find his weakness. So, there we go. So I believe we've only down to 4 Robot Masters left. So, in this case though, yeah. Goes all pretty quick, kind of think about it, when it comes to certain stages. So, yeah, how's that for that? Anyway, number 9 goes to the best little warehouse in Texas. So, never heard of that film before, especially noticeable because, well, I think it's been made by Universal. So in this case though, I haven't really known about this film up until now anyway, for I've done a massive research on several box office performance, because let's face it, I was gonna able to try to mention something more likely for the games themselves or something like that. But honestly, there's not much else I can speak of, because obviously that you've already guys seen Mega Man 1 and Mega Man 2 from both the NES and the Genesis version already for the entire channel so far, and especially noticeable with the forms of Mega Man 3, so I don't think there's any point I can mention about the forms of some of these specific details. Oh, what's this? Oh god, it's Breakman! And of course, you're able to jump all over the place, and I think you will come across into him for about 4 times. So, like for instance, we come across into one in the Shadow Man stage, and eventually, whenever we get into Magnet Man stage, and also Heart Man stage as well, and even eventually later on throughout the game. So, because of that, though, yeah, you're just gonna have to keep shooting at him before you progress, because otherwise, if you just try to shoot him in the back, is the best option, so that way you can able to deal quite a bit of damage. So anyway, so let's go ahead and continue, and I'm really hoping I need to get more oh god, the actual darkness. Although thankfully, if we decide able to use the Rush Jet, we can just simply skip the entire portion of this segment, because look, this is how awesome Rush Jet is, especially noticeable you can skip the entire portion, so which will become stable in the series, including by the forms of some of the Game Boy Mega Man games, including some future sequels as well. The only time exception by the forms of Mega Man 8 and Mega Man and Base, because, well, it seems totally obvious about the fact that with Mega Man and Base has no rush adapters or no rush parts, because instead he's been replaced by Eddie, which sometimes he can either help you, or most of the time he screws you up. So if you're falling for that particular Let's Play of it already, if you decide to check it out. And Also, in Mega Man 8's case, for the actual rush item called Rush Question, that it is sometimes you can either gives you a random item or you can just fall asleep, but most of the time with other 3 parts like Rush Spike, might be situational, but as far as the forms of another rush part is usually concerned, that it gives you some health pickups, which is pretty useful. The only useful rush parts from the likes of in Mega Man 8, because, you know, no energy tanks in Mega Man 8, so yeah, I guess that's a bit of a bummer for those who are not a big fan of those kind of stuff. Alright, so we have to dodge this parachuting like enemies, which sometimes if you manage to get hit by them, it just usually sometimes causes you a knockback, which you don't let that happen, so... Oh god, some dragonfly like enemies, even though mind you that we've already seen them since in Gemini Man stage, so... Anyway, let's get back into the forms of that particular conversation with the best box office performance back in 1982. Number 8 goes to Poltergeist, which I've heard of it, never actually seen it though, but either way though, I'm curious to check it out. Number 7 goes to 48 Hours, so heard of it, still haven't seen it yet. Number 6 goes to Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Karen, so yeah, I've heard of it, but yet again, not actually seen it. Number 5 goes to Pool Keys, so it's a bit weird for that name's title. And number 4 goes to Rocky 3, and number 3 goes to An Officer and a Gentleman, and number 2 goes to Tootsie. I've heard about those films, but I haven't actually seen them yet, especially Rocky 3. I mean, to get around to it at some point. And the number 1 box office performance during the likes of in 1982 is the most iconic one, which appears to be E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Which, don't worry, I'm not talking about the forms of that god-awful video game adaptation from the likes of Atari 2600. I'm talking about the most, a pretty cool film, which appears to be the E.T. the Extraterrestrial. So, man, I can't even believe that film is now 40 years old. So, yeah, it's pretty scary, kind of think about it. So yeah, I guess that's about that. And also, I do apologize with my sniffy nose every once in a while, but yeah, it doesn't bother me too much, but it might be a bit inconsistent sometimes when it comes to likely having sniffy noses on recording sessions, which it might be intended to bother some people, but trust me guys, it doesn't happen that often, so I do apologize for that. So anyway, so now we're able to actually access the forms of the Shadow Blade weapon, as well as the forms of Rush Marine. So we basically got all 3 parts of Rush. So in this case though, we can now able to actually use, you know, like I said, Rush Jet, which as you saw already. And also we've already seen Rush Coil so many times. But we'll save the forms of Rush Marine until whenever we're able to get into the halfway point of Mega Man 3 portion of this entire, you know, Mega Man the Wily Wars collection, basically. So, speaking of Rush Coil, let's go and use him right here for not only weapon refuel energy, but also just health pickup as well. So, yeah, it's self-explanatory. So, anyway, I must admit though right away, I do really like the forms of the 16-bit rendition of certain music so far, from the likes of in Mega Man 3's case, because obviously we've already stumbled across into Gemini Man stage, but I will say that I do really like the actual 16-bit music of Gemini Man's music, because it almost kind of reminds me like a Genesis Sonic the Hedgehog vibe. Well, almost anyway, because there were a few times that, like I said, ever since the beginning portion of Mega Man the Wily Wars Let's Play, there are a few times that usually for certain music choices for most people are pretty much hit and miss most of the time, so... Because obviously that most people always seem to be able to recognize the 8-bit counterparts of certain music for most of any other Mega Man games, which I'm guessing that's the most important aspect, because obviously, yeah, you know, back in the day that, you know, Nintendo and Capcom are actually having a strong relationship between each other when it comes to making some, not only some very excellent Mega Man games on the NES, but also some other Disney license-based games like DuckTales, DuckTales 2, and also Chip 'n Dale 1 and 2, and you probably get the idea about that. And same applies on the Super Nintendo stuff as well, so Anywho, so we basically taken down Sparkman right here by simply using the Shadow Blade. So, yeah, easy as pie for that particular boss. Assuming if you're trying to able to be super careful with, like, not to touch him, basically, because obviously that you will take more damage than any other projectiles as far as I'm usually concerned with that stuff. So anyway, now we're done with that, and only 2 more Robot Masters left, which are both Magnet Man, especially noticeable with Heartman as well. So either way though, and chances are that basically we pretty much almost at the actual halfway point on a Mega Man 3 portion or something like that, which I think I already mentioned that briefly or not. So anyways, time for Magnet Man. So I'm hoping this stage will be a bit easier, on the easier side, because obviously with, since we've now able to actually access to Rush Jet, so this means that it makes this entire stage such a cakewalk. So, although originally, whenever I was decided able to do this entire recording session, from the likes of the first ever part from Mega Man 3, originally, I was expecting to do something a little bit differently when it comes to the forms of the stage order, like, for example, that I don't suppose I forgot to mention to you guys about this. This is actually my second attempt for this recording session because the first attempt didn't go so well because I ultimately chose the wrong stage to begin with. Which, it turns out was alright, but if I did manage to go for the stage normally, likely on Magnet Man stage, because that was the stage I managed to choose first on my first attempt, but for some reason I just keep on dying by the forms of Magnet Man. Because I was expecting to do something a little bit more differently when it comes to the forms of the Robot Master's orders, but unfortunately though, it's not gonna happen, so we'll just have to go for the actual same exact route, but in forms of how it does it on the NES version, basically, so, but just with sweet 16-bit graphics, so, yeah, I guess that's totally obvious, So anyway, let's talk about the forms of another discussion when it comes to the forms of the highest grossing films throughout the years, and this time we're going on to 30 years ago, specifically 1992. Oh yes, we come to the actual exciting part where it comes to the forms of certain films did manage to did so well for its box office department. So, number 10 goes to Wayne's World. I've definitely heard of it because I'm pretty sure that Mike Myers was actually in the film. Because I'm pretty sure the only time I've seen that is actually on Game Explained's review of New Super Luigi U back in 2013. Jeez Louise, what did all time go? Speaking of Luigi though, before I discuss more details about the actual box office performances, for the top 10 anyway, for most 1992 films, I know for the fact that until next year, that Luigi will definitely become I would say 40 years old, so because of that though, I'm pretty sure it's likely 40, so yeah, I guess that's usually the case. And speaking of New Super Luigi U though, is the fact that until next year, in 2023, that particular add-on DLC, or the standalone release of New Super Luigi U, are expecting to become a decade old. Jeez Louise, man, why is all time goes? Why all that days usually just goes by very fast? Enough about that topic, because either way we made it to the end of Magnet Man stage already, so we can able to actually instantly manage to able to KO him by doing with his weakness, which is specifically Spark Shards. So even though I wasn't paying attention to what the actual weapon itself is named, by the way, because I wasn't paying attention because I somehow got distracted by other things I discussed. So in this case though, let's go ahead and take down, you know, Magnet Man here. So anyway, let's get back into the forms of the top 10 best box office performance from in 1992 for about 30 years ago. So let's just say number 9 goes to Bram Stoker's Dracula. Never heard of that film before, but I do definitely know it comes from Sony and stuff like that. So yeah, I honestly have no words to say about that film, honestly. Number 8 goes to Sister Act. I've heard of it, never actually seen it though. Although, I do definitely know that Disney just managed able to make the film, so I guess that's that. Number 7 goes to A Few Good Men by Sony, so I guess that's that. And number 6 goes to Batman Returns, which I mean, yeah, I've heard about the film, still haven't got a chance to see it yet though. Although I definitely know that that film is basically like a Christmas-themed film. I'm pretty sure anyway, but hopefully I need to get around into that film at some point, so... Anyways, number 5 goes to Lethal Weapon 3, which is specifically the third film of the likes of the Lethal Weapon series. Well, I've watched it, and it was alright. So, in this case, though, is the fact that I just managed able to get into the films of the Lethal Weapon series. Well, despite they're a bit more adult approach when it comes to likely for its buddy gun-like film and stuff like that. But I've heard of it, and give that a shot, and then I don't mind it. Well, despite the fact that it does have some rude moments here and there, such as, for instance, you know, a lot of curse words from time to time, and also some of those violence they included. But overall, I don't think I can probably show this off, because obviously I might as well get a copyright strike here and there, especially noticeable seeing the actual film itself, so... And number 4 goes to Basic Instruct. I haven't exactly heard about that one, though, because, well... I just never actually get around on getting my hands on that though. Oh, basically those monkeys kind of feels a bit familiar, doesn't it? Because it almost inspires by kind of like the same monkeys as in the forms of how it does it on Mega Man 2 Woodman stage, except, well, instead of able to actually just able to climb onto any vines or certain trees for that matter, because they now seem to able to climb onto rocky structure or something. Well, either way though, it's a bit weird though, but hey. Thank you, Energy Tank, because I seriously needed you, especially that, you know, I can now able to pick up 9 of them, so... Although, what if we get into the actual final game of this entire compilation, so in this case though, I think I should probably, you know, save that topic until likely at the end of this month, because, well, you already know about the fact that we're actually getting really close towards the end of August this year, so, it seems very weird with this damage output where it comes to likely if you're getting hit by certain enemies while trying to ride on the rush jet, because for some reason it always seems to able to actually give me a bit of a fast acceleration for a second. But oh well, it doesn't bother me too much about it, so here's our third encounter with Breakman, same old stuff as before, except now with the forms of the room arena that it does manage to take place, rather than just a simple straight arena itself. So it's just basically like quite a few steps here and there. I think this one is potentially one of the hardest of the 4, because obviously that you might get hit a lot, so, but thankfully we deal with that with him, so we can able to deal with him until the later portion of Mega Man 3, so in this case though we'll just have to save it for later, so slide underneath him. Anyway, number 3 goes to Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, in this case the second film of the Home Alone series. So, I've watched it, and it was alright. Nowhere near as good as the films of the first one though, but I will say that the fourth one is easily the worst, because obviously, and same applies to the films of the Holiday Heist, and also the newest one they've obviously bring out from Disney Plus. I think those films are considerably the worst ones, because it's nothing like the original, at least to me anyway. Number 2 goes to The Bodyguard, and finally number 1, where it comes to the top box office performance back in 1992, is pretty obvious, Aladdin. Specifically, the original 1992 animated classic. Oh man, I really love this film so much, especially because obviously with this iconic genie actor, Robin Williams, is comes into play. So in this case though, is the fact that I always adored the original film, which as a result though, every time when me and Blue managed to able to choose the film, then I always choose Aladdin because it is so sweet of a film, and Blue honestly don't mind about it too much because, you know what I mean, me and Blue are in love, so I guess that's super obvious since if you ever watched Rio 1 and Rio 2 already several times. So now we got ourselves Hard Knuckle. So basically we dished out as many of those Robot Masters. So yeah, we basically going to be done, right? Well, we're not done yet because we have Dark Robots. Oh boy. So I guess we should probably get out to able to end things off at this point right here. So join me next time for more of Let's Play of Mega Man The Wily Wars. In Mega Man 3, we need to take down all of these Dark Robots. Oh boy, wish me luck on that front. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Later, fellas.